What if the greatest love story isn't the one that begins, but the one that finds its way home? There's a kind of love that doesn't follow straight lines. It bends through time, weaves through silence, and hides inside the folds of personal evolution. It's the kind of bond that doesn't start with sparks. It begins with recognition, a quiet, deep knowing. Carl Jung believed that some souls are drawn together by forces older than memory, by unconscious patterns and symbols etched deep in the collective psyche. And when two such souls meet, it's not just romance, it's the collision of destiny, myth and meaning. Jungian psychology helps us see beyond the surface. He didn't define love by chemistry or logic, but by transformation. He spoke of inner opposites, the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine forces within all of us. When we meet someone who awakens these archetypes, it's as if the soul remembers something it lost long ago. You feel seen, not just in who you are, but in who you were always meant to become. It's not just about finding someone. It's about remembering yourself through the mirror of the other. But such soul connections are not always peaceful. In fact, the stronger the pull, the deeper the shadows rise. Love at this depth doesn't flatter your ego, it dismantles it. Why? Because true soul recognition doesn't only reflect your beauty, it exposes your hidden fears, unhealed wounds, and long-buried truths. It challenges your illusion of control. Jung taught that the shadow, everything we repress, emerges most powerfully in love. And when two destined souls meet, their shadows don't hide. They dance, collide, and provoke. But this is not destruction, it's purification. When you're standing face to face with your destined counterpart, you're also confronting your own unconscious. It's why the connection can feel exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The ego tries to run, but the soul leans in. This love asks you to feel deeper, heal harder, and rise higher. Because these unions aren't meant to pacify you, they're meant to awaken you, to force you out of the roles you play and into the truth of who you are. They burn away the old self, so something more whole can emerge. Jung described the process of individuation, the journey of becoming one's true self. And this type of love often serves as the catalyst. That's why it's not always smooth. It may begin with magic, but it continues with challenge. That's the point. You don't meet your destined soul because you're ready to settle, you meet them because you're ready to transform. And often that transformation requires separation. Yes, even the most powerful connections go through distance. But distance doesn't mean disconnection. In Jungian terms, it means the psyche is doing necessary work. Just like in myth, the hero often journeys alone before returning to union. In love, it's no different. Each soul must walk through its own darkness, integrate its own lessons, and grow strong enough to love freely, not out of fear or longing, but out of choice. What's extraordinary about these reunions is that they often happen when the ego least expects it, when there's no desperation, only peace. The self has quietly arranged everything behind the scenes, that time apart. It wasn't wasted, it was sacred. It prepared you, and when you finally cross paths again, the recognition isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. You see each other with less illusion, but more love. These are not ordinary relationships. They're not driven by the surface. They don't survive because of comfort or convenience. They survive because something eternal is being expressed through them. A myth written not by history books, but by the soul. Across centuries and cultures, stories have told of such love. Orpheus and Eurydice, Tristan and Isolde, lovers that defy fate, even death. Jung believed these myths live within us. So when we fall deeply, we're not just falling in love, we're living out a symbolic story already encoded within the collective unconscious. The pull you feel towards someone isn't always explainable. That's because it's not meant to be. The soul speaks in symbols, not sentences. When you meet your destined soul, the moment doesn't scream, it whispers, a silence that says, "You've known me before." This recognition goes beyond memory. It's cellular, ancestral. The body relaxes before the mind understands. The heart remembers before words are formed. But beware, idealizing this love too much can also trap us in fantasy. Jung warned about that too. Archetypes are powerful, but if you live inside them unconsciously, they can distort reality. You start expecting perfection when what you're being offered is a partner, not a savior. The goal isn't to merge into one another and lose yourselves. It's to awaken the divine within each other while staying rooted in your own self. In that sense, destined love isn't dependency, it's devotion. It's not about needing the other to survive. It's about choosing them once you've already learned how to live. And when two whole beings meet again, not to fill a void, but to walk beside each other, that's when the true reunion happens. It is love, reborn in awareness. Even when silence stretches across months or years, the bond remains. Not in a clinging way, but in a knowing way. You carry them without needing to hold them. And when the moment is right, life rearranges itself. One message, one encounter, one look, and suddenly everything moves again. Because what is true always finds a way. Not because fate forces it, but because the soul, now ready, finally opens the door. So, if you're in that space of waiting or wondering, trust this. If the love is meant, it's not gone, it's becoming. Each step you take toward your own healing is a step toward reunion. Not just with the other, but with yourself. If these words stirred something deep within, don't let them fade. Let them take root. Like this video, subscribe for more, and in the comments type "I remember." Because sometimes that's all the soul needs to find its way home. But what happens when you meet your destined soul and they don't stay? What if they walk away, or you do, and the silence that follows feels unbearable? Here's the truth that Jung's teachings whisper. Not all endings are failures. Sometimes the soul steps back, not because love has died, but because growth is calling. The ego wants answers, timelines, certainty, but the soul is patient. It understands that love that is truly destined will not crumble under distance. It will evolve through it. Some connections are paused, not broken. They wait beneath the noise of life ripening in the unseen. And often the most important work happens in solitude. Jung called this confrontation with the inner world the path of individuation. In soul connections, this can look like heartbreak, confusion, or longing. But underneath all of that is a sacred process unfolding. One soul is shedding its old identities. The other is doing the same. Their separation becomes the fire that tempers each into gold. And when they meet again, if they do, it's not as who they were, it's as who they became. Because of that very space. In many ways, these relationships are mirrors of the sacred marriage within the alchemical union between anima and animus, yin and yang, soul and shadow. Whether that union happens between two people or within one, the symbolism is the same. Love, at this level, teaches us integration. It reveals that no one else is responsible for saving us. But in loving and being loved in truth, we are reminded of the divinity already within us. Even dreams reflect this process. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through symbols, faces, places, emotions we don't fully understand when we're awake. Have you ever dreamt of someone you haven't seen in years, only to wake with a strange clarity? That's the psyche in motion. It's trying to tell you this person was not just part of your past. They are part of your becoming. Not necessarily as a partner, but as a key, one that opened a door within you that you were meant to walk through. Many fear that if they don't hold on tightly, they'll lose the love forever. But true soul connections are not held together by control, they're held together by resonance. And resonance doesn't fade when someone is physically absent. It lives on in your growth, in your memories, in the way they transformed you. If the bond is real, it becomes part of your spiritual DNA. You don't need to force it, you just need to honor it. And here's something we rarely admit. Some destined souls are not meant to stay forever. They come as teachers, as disruptors, as catalysts. They ignite something that no one else could, and then they leave. Not because they didn't love you, but because their role in your story was to awaken you, not to walk beside you forever. That too is sacred. That too is love, just a different kind. If you feel haunted by someone you once felt destined for, ask yourself this: what part of me did they awaken? What truth did they reflect? What wound did they expose? Often, the soul doesn't long for the person, it longs for the version of itself that came alive in their presence. And that version is still within you, still possible, still waiting to be lived. You don't have to lose it when you lose them. So maybe the real magic isn't just in finding your destined soul. It's in recognizing what they showed you, what they stirred awake, what they helped you remember. Because in the end, true reunion doesn't begin with another. It begins with you, when you finally return to yourself. If this message spoke to something ancient and true inside you, don't let it drift away. Tap the like button to keep this wisdom alive in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel for more soul-deep insights, stories, and Carl Jung-inspired awakenings. And in the comments, type the word "returted" to declare that your soul remembers, that you are open to reunion within or with the one who was always meant to find their way back. Your story isn't over. It's only just remembering where it began.